Hi there, this is Mr. Evans. This video is going to look at a huge area, technological change. As part of the AS course, you already looked at technological change as part of the operations unit and looked at the kind of almost opportunities and threats presented by introducing new technology, which is why I assume this bullet point here on the specification is so small, because technology and the technological development is such a huge area in business over the last years. And AQA say themselves frequently in the specification, students should be aware of technological change and the impact it has on strategic decision making, etc. So this is going to be quite a brief video, but really technological change kind of runs throughout everything that you've been doing and is a key part of the syllabus. So we could define technological change, or at least technology, as the application of science to develop tools with the purpose of solving problems or achieving goals. And you know, this is such a vast area. There have been technological development in kind of all areas. So, you know, there's just a couple of pictures there. I mean, technological developments in medicine and healthcare and the pharmaceutical industry. Technological developments in communications is absolutely massive. And you combine that with kind of the transport developments that we've had in terms of technology, and you know, it's completely revolutionised the way that businesses manage their supply chains and their infrastructure. The final picture on the right there represents developments in kind of IT and computing in the last 4 to 5 years, particularly the emergence of kind of cloud software and the ability for people to kind of share information and pass information in quantities that are really unimaginable even 10 to 20 years ago. So the specification says you need to be aware of the impact of technological change on functional areas and strategy. So, I mean, we'll start off with technological change in finance. So, in recent years, there's been huge developments in terms of like electronic payment systems, allowing people to pay over the internet, PayPal, and other ways of paying over the internet. But not just that, like chip and pin devices, where you know, you can just wave your card in front of a machine and it pays instantly, and business to business payments which occur instantaneously. There's no kind of waiting around anymore for checks to clear or wondering if people are going to arrive with the money. You know, money can now be transferred instantly from bank account to bank account, and that just makes the job of finance so much easier. It cuts down on the amount of time we have to spend up chasing debts, etc. So we're going to have reduced costs of carrying cash. Now, actually, some businesses in the UK particularly are moving to being cash free. I heard a guy in a coffee shop in South London saying that they'd stopped accepting cash and they were just doing sort of card payments now using the kind of chip and pin device. And the point was that they were spending an hour at the end of each day cashing up and taking the money to the bank, and it was a theft risk, etc. And it's just much reduced their cost significantly not carrying cash anymore. Easier accounting. I don't know what I mean by settling invoices. So it's much easier to account for, and settling invoices can occur instantaneously. You know, you don't need to physically post an invoice and wait for it to come back. You send it by email and the money can come through. And we've got instant payment, which I've mentioned. And the amount of data that's now available to the finance team through the kind of accounting systems and computer software that they've got, that's eliminated a whole load of admin that needed to be done, like numbers being put into computers. You know, a lot of that stuff, information will come through automatically now, and it allows better analysis and reporting, so how much money has been made in the day. You know, you can look at trends and graphs. In the old days, graphs had to be drawn by hand. I know that sounds obvious, but these days you just just tell Excel or whatever software you're using that you want a graph, and it produces a graph, which would have taken, hours previously of finding the data and producing it. So an awful lot of time and effort is saved in finance. In terms of marketing, well, huge advantages as a result of developments in technology for marketing. Through websites, we can collect individual data on customers. I've got an account with Amazon, I have done for about 10 years. They know everything that I've bought over 10 years. So every time I turn on the Amazon website, I get books about teaching and I get books about business advertised to me, because they know that's what I've read in the past. Lower cost advertising. It's much cheaper to advertise on websites than traditional media like television or even buses and billboards and all the rest of it. We can judge the impact of advertising better, so we can do a click-through rate analysis so we see how many people are actually clicking on our advert and following up. Is the advert any good? If the click-through rate is low, probably not. It's going to help us conduct market research, online surveys and so on. And also we've got, of course, the developments in social media, where we can do real-time promotion of the business. Really helpful in crisis management type situations where firms need to respond immediately to things that are cropping up, and can be right on the ball in terms of any emergencies that come up. However, there is, of course, the constant need for monitoring and management of social media. In terms of operations, well, we talked about technology in the operations function in the unit 3.4, I think it was, on operations. But we can use stock management systems to introduce just-in-time, reduce the cost of holding raw materials. We can do mass customization, where customers are able to design their own products online, and then the message comes through to the factory and that product is produced. Increase the price to consumers for doing it without huge costs incurred by the business. And we can develop closer relationships with our suppliers. Machinery and production technology is always improving, so we can move to a more capital intensive production where we've got fewer workers, increased output and labour productivity, but of course there's an impact on creativity. Machines aren't terribly creative and can't come up with new ideas, and dealing with non-standard orders or requests might be more difficult, although machines are getting far better at that. Okay, so finally, technological change in human resources or people. Well, there's huge numbers of online training systems now where you can do online courses. You send your staff to do an online course, although of course they're not actually leaving the building as it used to be for off-the-job training. They'd go and spend the afternoon, one day a week or whatever it is at the university. These days they don't need to do that because there's online training that they can do. So we're going to get better skilled workforce. It reduces the costs of training, etc. And just the level of networking and communications technology, mobile phones, laptops, iPads, and you could be connected to your company 24/7 and working from home, leaving work early to collect children. All of these are valued things by employees, but obviously there's a downside to people checking their emails and being able to check their emails at 2 o'clock in the morning. It can be a huge cause of stress too. So just to summarise then, various opportunities and threats created by new technology. We could look at the lower costs and the fewer mistakes, better labour productivity from the introduction of new machinery, new technology in operations, but obviously we've got the cost of installing that machinery, training workers, and the impact on their motivation. If we're sacking lots of workers and then asking their remaining colleagues to kind of operate the machinery. There are opportunities to increase customer satisfaction through consistency and better quality production, again probably related to technology in the operations department, but also increase customer satisfaction because they can design their own products. However, if we're replacing all machinery with workers, will we still be able to customise and hand make products in quite the way that a worker can, a human worker? There's opportunities to improve communication with the workforce. We can be in touch via emails, cheaper to communicate with the workforce. If we've got people who are working abroad, we can pretty much be in fairly instant communication with them through things like email and messenger services. But there's the risk of workforce burnout as well, and there's a few very sad stories of people kind of, like I say, literally checking their emails in the middle of the night and becoming hugely stressed as a result of it. In terms of marketing, we got a huge amount of data on individual customers through like reward card systems that record everything you buy. We collect data on people. We know our customers better. However, there's the risk of hacking and the impact on consumer confidence that would have. If we're collecting this huge amount of data on consumers, we've got a responsibility as a company to look after that, and under the Data Protection Act, and not let that information be hacked, which can be a huge cost to stay ahead of hackers who unfortunately are after people's information, particularly financial stuff like bank accounts. Finally, in terms of opportunities and threats, well, in terms of strategic decision making, we can record, we can access data from all areas of the business. How many products were made today, how many mistakes were made on the production line. Looking at the finances, it allows for much better decision making, and that's going to be really helpful for our people at the top of the organisation. However, we've got the high cost of investment in new technology, not just the cost of keeping up, installing it in the first place and then maintaining it, keeping it up to date, but also the potential impact it could have on our workforce if we're replacing workers with machinery without thinking through really the impact on their motivation levels. So an awful lot in this bit on technological change. It's had a huge impact on businesses and will continue to do so over the coming years.